We're back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. He's Barrett Brooks. He's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are joined by our next guest. Does an awesome job covering the Eagles for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Also has a really good podcast with Ruben Frank called Eagle Eye, and we appreciate him hopping on with us last week from the site of the Super Bowl in Arizona. Dave, what's going on, my man? How you making out?
I'm doing all right, getting like some sleep in this week, which is nice.
What's that? What is that? I know you're not familiar with that after the way last week went, but yeah.
I thought you'd be on a deserted island somewhere right now.
We have an exotic trip coming soon. What's the game
I'm happy to be home for a little bit, honestly. It's such a, covering a Super Bowl is fun, but it's a grind, and it's, I got out there the Saturday through the next Monday. So I was there for, a long time, and you're living out of a hotel, and it was so funny. So my hotel, I didn't get room service the whole time, or not room. I didn't get maid service the whole time. So I've been eating meals up there. So I eventually I went down to the desk and asked for a trash bag. I had to tidy up my room myself because I can't leave it like that. I think I was a slob in there for a week.
Dave, you're like me, dude. When I go to hotels and I stay extended periods of time, I don't let maid service come in. I never let them come in. Well, basically because I don't want to have to deal with the possibility of anything missing.
Yeah.
You hear the stories about people missing jewelry, stuff like this. I just don't, and when I go in my room, I set up my things a certain way. I don't want stuff moved. And I clean the room myself, and I'm just like Dave. I'll go down. Can I have a trash bag, please?
Yeah.
And you know what I do? Tie it up, leave it right outside the door. They can take that. That's what they take. I don't let them in my room.
Dang.
No.
Okay. There you go. Life lessons from Gunner. All right, Dave. So let's hit a couple things. We were talking about this earlier with both coordinators going. Is it a slam dunk that it's Brian Johnson and Denard Wilson? Would you weigh one more heavier than the other? If one is not a lock, who are some of the options here? Have they even dug that deep into this thing? Where do you stand with the coordinators leaving?
Yeah, I think Brian Johnson is certainly a slam dunk. The timing ended up working out there because the Eagles were playing for so long. The worry there was that another team was going to come calling. He get hired as an offensive coordinator, and then they would lose Shane Steichen. That was the worst case scenario. But now they have an opportunity to keep Brian, and I think he's ready to be an offensive coordinator. That makes a ton of sense. Denard Wilson makes the most sense defensively if they want to just promote from within. Nick Rollis is an interesting name too, but I think Denard is ahead of him.
Who is that, Dave, for people who may not know?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Nick Rollis is their linebackers coach, and Denard Wilson is their defensive backs coach. Rollis is really young. He's barely 30, but he's going to be a defensive coordinator in the league. He's going to keep rising. But another part of this too is you have to worry eventually about the overall talent in your coaching staff because there's a lot of good reasons to promote from within. I think it creates the right culture, and I think they have some talented people who they can promote right now. But you do worry about if you keep promoting, and it's great, but are you still going to have the high level talent in the coaching staff that you want to have? We've seen that be a problem here before. We've seen, Andy Reid was never really able to replace those early assistants. Even Doug Peterson tried to promote from within, and then when it wasn't working, Jeff Lurie said, "Here's Rich Zangaro, figure it out," and it didn't work out. Right? It wasn't a good way to go about things. So it's a tricky deal because I think they do have a lot of talent in that coaching staff, but you want to try to replenish at times too. And another part of this is you just had two coordinators hired away. Who are they going to take with them?
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a problem. And Nick has always joked about he joked with Gannon last year, he's not allowed to take anybody, but Nick took coaches with them. Nick took Kevin Patullo. He took Jason Michael. So the chances are some of these lower level assistants are going to get promotions by leaving and going with Gannon or Steichen.
You can have Michael Clay. You can We'll give you all the pens and stuff.
You can have Sippos too. We'll throw Sippos in there.
You know who
done. Done.
Roy Estevan, who is their
line coach.
Coach. You're not getting Stout, but maybe you can get the next best thing. So one of these guys ought to hire him.
I better not do that because if they take him, I'm sorry guys, but I gotta go be a coach.
This may impact us, Gunner.
Yeah, look,
you're not working those hours.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Hold on, to work with the
set him straight, Dave.
To work with the great Stoutland,
he ain't doing it, Dave.
Heck
he ain't doing it. Dave.
I think he'd do it. I actually think he would do it.
Dave, the biggest question is, would he get there on time?
Oh.
That's a shot.
We all in front of the company right now. He gonna do me like that.
You're airing our dirty laundry in front of Dave.
Right, we all in front of the company.
No, this has nothing to do with it. This is knowing him for years. Wow. No, I am airing no dirty laundry.
Right.
No,
Gunner's up in a tower somewhere, just taking shots. Okay, interesting. How quickly, Dave, do you think they make these calls? Do you think? I mean, because you're like up against everything here. We're combines right around the corner. You know, this stuff's pretty tight.
Yeah, it can't linger too long. And honestly, it's like so many other coaching staffs are in place. It's not really a reason to draw this out. You don't want to rush it, but we're getting the combine is right around the corner. You're doing draft prep, you're doing free agency prep. You have to have your coaching staff in place. So I don't think it's going to take super long. I think they and I asked Nick Sirianni about this a few weeks ago. How much he's prepared for this. And he said he obviously wouldn't dish out any names at that point, but he said that he had plans for both scenarios. And now he might have not thought he was going to lose both of them in the same day,
right?
But they've put thought into this. It wasn't a super big shock. Maybe the way it happened, because for a while there, it looked like they were going to be in the clear and they were going to get both back. But they always knew it was a possibility they'd lose these coaches, and they've prepared as such.
Dave, I've said that it's imperative they hire a defensive coordinator sooner rather than later, simply because you have the combine coming up, free agency, the draft, and you want to have somebody in place who also wants to have input in terms of what type of player they want in their defense, body size, speed, versatility, stuff like that. So I think it's better you get somebody in there now so the mindset starts gearing towards, okay, let's look for these type of players for this particular guy's system, whether it's somebody they're keeping in the house or whoever they bring in from the outside.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think it'll take super long either. Denard Wilson's interesting because kind of like Gannon, he has a scouting background.
Yep.
So you'd imagine he's going to play if it ends up being him, he's going to play a pretty big role in figuring out who their players are going to be. I think it's worthwhile to think about like overall ideas about defense and like what do we want to be. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think overall this defense was very good this year, and we saw some of the flaws going in the Super Bowl. So I think that the opinions on Gannon are made and they're not changing. But I do think it's a loss. They had some stability. It was a good defense. Did they get exposed in the Super Bowl? Yeah. I mean, but by one of the greatest coaches and one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. So I get it. The defense didn't live up to their end of the bargain, especially in the second half of that game. But there is something to be said for a little bit of consistency, and I think Denard would provide that.
Now, looking at all the players that are going to be in free agency, and then going forward, wouldn't you think that it'd be a better opportunity for a coach outside of the organization to come in? That way, he really had carte blanche to do whatever he wants to do in the system.
Yeah, they could. Then the question becomes, who's that guy? The timing, everyone for a long time was thinking, maybe Vic Fangio will come here.
He's gone.
The timing obviously doesn't work out for that, and that's disappointing if that was an option because he's a great coach, and he's been a really great coach for a long time. But Lovey's interesting. I don't know if he wants to do it. I mean, that's the first thing. A guy who's coming off a head coaching stint, he might be cool with sitting back and cashing a check. I think I would be for a year, so that they'd have to figure out if that would be something he'd even be interested in. But yeah, he'd be a guy you'd at least be curious about. He's been a good DC in the NFL for a long time.
One more.
Yeah.
What about Vance Joseph? Since Gannon is going to Arizona, what are the chances he keeps the former?
So Vance would be fun. Eagles fans would like Vance's style more.
Mm-hmm.
I actually covered Vance when he was a DB's coach in Houston. Yeah, he'd be fun, but you'd have to change your style. You'd have to. I think the Eagles have enough versatile pieces on defense that are coming back. You'd be able to, but
it'll actually be more similar in the aspect that it would be all 3-4 instead of 4-3. It'd be all 3-4.
It would be, but like sometimes. So Vance learned a lot from Wade Phillips, and a lot of like you think of 3-4 and you go to like, are they two gapping? Is it boring? But no, like Wade's
one gap,
one gap 3-4. So it's like I'll be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Cardinals other than
I did. They're more so an over front instead of a 3-4 front. They call it's over. It's still like it's 4 defensive linemen.
Yeah,
but they're over in a gap. It's actually 3-4. They just one gap it instead of 3 gap. But then out of that conceptually, they blitz out of it more. That's what.
Yeah, they certainly do blitz more. And like the one gapping 3-4 is like a nice compromise from like we've had these 4-3s here for so long, and we've gotten used to it. And Gannon introduced a little 3-4, obviously, and really with that whatever you call it, the penny front, whatever you want to call it. So we've gotten more used to seeing that in recent years. That the Vance Joseph defense would be like a blend of that. They would blitz more though, and that would make people happy.
So, Dave, let's talk about what the heck happened in the game. Things looked good in the first half. They really came unraveled in the second half and couldn't get a stop. It was not just Mahomes dicing you in the air. They couldn't stop the run game either. 4 possessions, 3 touchdowns, a field goal. We know a couple mitigating circumstances. One was a 5-yard drive after the bad punt and the punt return, but the other one they could have scored on had they chosen to. What, in your estimation, happened other than just, hey, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? Like, what was going on that they weren't able to execute at all?
Yeah, I think, to me, it's just the big mistakes you can't make. And Jalen played a great game. That fumble, obviously, was 7 points. And before the fumble, it was the Isaac Seumalo false start that set it up. They sneak that, if not, and they probably get the first down. That drive keeps going. You're not going to put any blame on Jalen, though. He played great. He gave him a chance to win. The defense was bad. And like I think there are just like the punt return, you can't give Patrick Mahomes the ball inside the 10-yard line and stop him. So, I mean, that's a big play. I kind of agree with A.J. Brown when they kicked the field goal to go up.
Just going to bring that up. Yep.
27-21. And I'm not even saying that Nick should have gone for it on 4th down. It was just the fact that like they had to do that. And you start trading field goals for touchdowns, it's not going to go well. And look, the defense just didn't play well. And I like that you brought up the run game because even when you're going to get up against a great quarterback, you still want to stop the run. You still want to make them as one-dimensional as possible. And the Eagles weren't able to do that. Andy called just a heck of a game. It was a clinic. Gannon's getting all the blame here, and I understand that. Andy deserves a ton of credit. That his game plan, his play calls. I mean, we've seen all the breakdowns now of those 2 kind of fake jet sweep motion plays. He just schemed guys wide open, and that's the thing. We got a taste of what the rest of the league sees when they watch the Chiefs and go, "Why is Travis Kelce wide open? Why don't they cover him?" It's not like any team's going in the game saying we're not going to cover Travis Kelce. It's that they scheme him open.
Yeah, that's the problem right there. Yeah,
the routes he runs
it wasn't spoken about enough the week leading in, the experience on their side and the lack thereof on the Eagles side. And I think it really reared its ugly head if you're an Eagles fan.
Well, you can't do that.
And I think the Eagles had a really good coaching staff, and Andy's gotten better in game management situations too. I thought the Eagles had a big advantage there. I thought they had a 4th and 3 on their own 32, and Nick punted. I would have gone for it there in the moment. I was like, go for it. Like, I think you just need to be super aggressive in a game like that where points are you're gonna score points. There are gonna be points on both sides. But I can't really crush Nick for anything. I thought he had an aggressive mindset the whole year, and it got him to that game. I thought that was the one moment where I was like, okay, like I probably would have gone for it there. But the Chiefs deserve credit. I was impressed by the way the Eagles lost. They gave them their credit. They deserve it. They do. Yeah. They played a great game. The Eagles made some big mistakes, and you can't make big mistakes against that team and that quarterback and that coach.
Hey, Dave, 2 questions in one. First of all, the 4th down play you were talking about, they decided to take the field goal instead of going for it. Sirianni had converted 73% of his 4th down attempts throughout the season. That was a shocker in itself. How shocked with you? Number 2, AJ, and I said it on the show yesterday, I was surprised that he came out and openly said, when we settled for 3 instead of going for it, at that point he felt there was a probability of losing that game. Now, I used to hearing players admit it like that openly.
Yeah, with AJ, I think it got misconstrued quite a bit. I don't think it was necessarily a shot at Nick for not going for it.
No, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, no, I know you don't. I think some people did take it that way.
Because he referenced, Dave, real quick, he referenced in Tennessee, he saw the same thing happen, and he just had the same sinking feeling.
Yeah, it wasn't the same thing. Like, it was just, he said he got the same feeling from it. In Tennessee, it was like he was talking about the divisional round last year against the Bengals. Tannehill threw an interception with the ball at like 30 seconds left, and the Bengals drove down the field, kicked a field goal with no time left to move to the AFC Championship game. That's what he was talking about. And he just meant it was like he got the same feeling, like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And look, I was in the press box thinking the same thing. Like, yeah, you got points, but
yeah,
what's that going to do? Like, they're still a touchdown away from taking a lead, and they did with ease, So he was as dejected as I think a player could be on Tuesday, and that's a couple days after the game. It's funny. It's like I was telling this to Rube on the Eagle Eye podcast. It's almost like watching how people deal with grief when they lose someone. It's like people deal with it differently. Like, some people are going to be like, I just want to move on. I just want to learn from, like, Jalen, I just want to move on. I just want to learn from it and get better. AJ wants to sit in it a while. And I think, like, there are reasons and there's validity to do both depending on the person. Now, at a certain point, you got to move on. At a certain point, you start to practice again. You can't be thinking about that because it can be gut-wrenching. At a certain point, if AJ's still there, then it becomes a problem and Jalen's got to pull him out of it. But for now, I get it. I mean, that's a crushing loss. It's harder to lose a game in a more devastating fashion after the year they had. Because, and I wrote this, and I feel kind of bad because it was kind of a grim piece that I wrote, but it's hard to imagine things ever being set up better than they were this year for the Eagles. Like, I don't know if the stars are ever going to align quite the same way. And that's not saying they can't get back there. That's not saying Jalen will never get back there. But there were so many things working in their favor. They even played a pretty good game in the Super Bowl, and they still lost. And it just reminds you that this league is so hard. It's so hard to win. It's so hard to get there. It's so hard to be the last team standing. And even when everything goes your way, sometimes it still doesn't matter.
With the exception of just that fumble, Jalen Hurts played an absolutely incredible game. And, you got frauds, even frauds on our timeline talking about, the Eagles were frauds. The Eagles deserve to be. They were the better team. It's just the team with the better quarterback, at that time in the second half won the game. Because if you look at the first half, the Eagles had the better quarterback. You know what I'm saying? In the second half, they went play for play, duel for duel. And I really believe that Jalen Hurts was actually the better quarterback. So in saying that,
I don't know if he was a better quarterback.
Huh?
I don't know if he was a better quarterback.
Well, in the first half, Jalen Hurts out-dueled that quarterback. Who was the better quarterback? Who was on the field more?
All right.
Who was on the field more? Who had more plays? Who made more big plays in the first half? Second half, who also made plays in the second half? It wasn't like there was that much of a big difference between the two
But he made the killer mistake, though, B.
Yes, the killer mistake, though. But that's what I get that. So that's why you'll say Mahomes is a better quarterback. But player for play, Mahomes was right there with him. Hurts and Patrick Mahomes right there neck and neck. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that he is a franchise quarterback. We should go ahead and pay him right now. But I hate that people are saying that this is really so much a huge difference between the two, and I don't think so.
In that game, probably not. Jalen played one of his best games we've ever seen. I think Jalen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's going to get paid, and it's going to be a lot. I mean, we're talking like the low end is $45 million a year. Like he's the dude. They're going to pay him. Mahomes is an alien. I mean,
that's the best way to describe it. Thank you.
I love it.
And it's like sometimes I got to check myself because I'm like, am I being like hyperbolic about this dude? Like, is he that good? He's that good. He's that good. And there was not like the one thing I keep coming back to in this game is we never got to see the pass rush get to him, and I think part of that was the field, and not to make excuses for them because the Chiefs.
No, but I'm curious where you fall on this because it was certainly both teams, but how does that even happen? How is that even happen?
It's a $1 billion league. It's I got better grass in my backyard right now, so I don't know how that happens. But if you're like trying to figure out who it hurt more in that game, it was the Eagles, and it's like it's not an excuse. And the Eagles wisely said how bad the field was, but quickly said, yeah, but they had to play on it too. The difference is, and I can say this because I can make excuses for them a little bit, but like the edge rushers couldn't get footing. So you have your two best options to get pressure on Mahomes in that game were Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat working against the tackles. The tackles did a great job in that game. Like, I don't want to take anything away from it. Andrew Wiley played a really good game. He heard everyone all week say Hassan Reddick was going to roast him, and he held his own. But they had to change the way they rush. Like these are speed rushers getting around the edge. They're supposed to be able to bend, have half a cleat in the ground, and still turn the corner, and they couldn't do that. So now they're bull rushing, and these tackles are sitting on the bull rushes, and they're not getting any pressure on Mahomes. That's a bad recipe. And then you have these little receivers that Casey has, and they're just moving all around the field, and you've got to try to react to that as defensive backs. It was tough. But I think the pass rush was the biggest issue for the Eagles. And to be honest, the players told me all week that even the Cardinals practice fields kind of sucked. Like they were slipping all around. And when I saw how bad the field was early in the game, I thought, well, maybe the Eagles will have an advantage. They've been practicing on a bad field all week, and it ended up not mattering too much.
Yeah. Well, it was hard to fathom that on the biggest stage they could end up that way. How quickly, Dave, do they move here on getting Jalen locked up? Because obviously they have tons of free agents and really impactful players, and you're gonna have to know what you have to play with here. Much like the question I had with you with the coordinators, how quick do you think this comes down?
Yeah, I don't know how quick it comes down because this is a huge negotiation.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Like the idea would be to try to do this quickly because you do have all these free agents, and now they can backload this deal, and they will. Once they figure out the deal, it will be backloaded. So it's not going to kill them immediately. They'll be able to have some money to play with in free agency, and they'll be able to bring some players back. They'll even be able to sign some from outside the organization. But until you know exactly what you're working with, it makes it tough. And I think that's why, remember last year, we saw all those deals in season, especially for the 2018 class. We saw Mailata, Sweat, Avonte Maddox, and Dallas Goedert get locked up during the year. We didn't see anything during this season. And I think that was purposeful. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think they wanted to get to this point and try to figure out the Hurts deal and go from there. It's gonna be a lot, and you can't shy away from it. It's like, this is the guy. He showed you he's the guy. He played great all season. Now, the big question going forward is like, will play style have to change once this deal's in place? I don't think it can. I think what makes him who he is his ability as a dual threat. He calls himself a triple threat with the brain, which I'll give him that. But his ability to run it makes him who he is. So you don't ever want to take that away. But once you're investing $45 million a year in him, it makes it a little tougher to let him just be him.
Hey, Dave, of all the multitudes of potential free agents out there, and we don't even include Brandon Graham, because Brandon Graham has openly said he will take the hometown discount just to stay with this organization. Give me, in chronological order, if you could, and we know it's difficult, if you could, give me your top 3 players that you want to see the Eagles keep in chronological order.
And am I in this? Am I like considering the price tag, or am I just saying these 3 players get him back?
Yeah. I mean, we have to take everything. The salary cap goes up, but your quarterback's going to eat up a lot of that when he gets paid. I'm just saying, in a perfect world, if you could make that decision, prioritize who are the top 3 that you want back.
I'd go.
That was a Ray Didinger pause, by the way. Just an FYI.
I mean, I'm going through the list in my head. There's like 20 guys.
Yeah.
Honestly, it wouldn't be anyone on offense.
Okay.
Because.
And I agree with you.
You know, Sam Alu's been a really good player, but you have so much invested on that line. I don't think you can prioritize bringing him back. Do you still try? Yeah, but I don't think you prioritize it. Miles Sanders had a great year. Philosophically, I'm against paying him a lot of money.
Right.
I can tell you right now, he ain't coming back.
Yeah. I think they should move on. I think they will from him.
Yeah.
No one else on offense really stands out. So you go to defense. The first guy who pops in my head is Javon Hargrave.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of think if he was going to be back, they would have figured that out already.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's gonna get paid. Like he's gonna be in the 18 to 20 million a year. You know, he's gonna maybe more. Like he's really good. He's gonna get paid. I'd have him on the near the top of my list. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Bradbury would be great too. Don't think that one's gonna happen.
Yep.
I think he's going to get more money elsewhere. How much money can you invest in your 2 cornerback positions, even as good as they are, and as good having 2 cornerbacks like that opens up so much of your defense. But it's tough to pay 2 cornerbacks that much money and 2 cornerbacks who are 30 plus. Ideally, you get younger there. I'd re-sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I'd figure that out.
That's a lot of money, though, man. We're talking about a safety. I know the safety position, a lot of money for them is sitting right around 13, 14 million.
Yeah, I think he'd be over 14. But in his first year playing safety, he figured it out. He's such a versatile piece.
Mm-hmm.
He brings something to them energy-wise. It brings something to them in the locker room. I'd find a way to bring him back, and I think the Eagles want to, because I don't think they traded for him to let him walk after this year. So he'd be at the top of the list. Then you have some guys who aren't going to make crazy money. Like you mentioned BG. If he wants to be back, I think the Eagles can figure out a way. He was really productive. TJ Edwards isn't going to break the bank. I think it'd be wise to bring him back for some continuity. I'd probably let Kaiser White walk.
What about Epps?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to break the bank.
He's not going to break the bank. You can bring him back. I think he's a solid player. If you have to break the bank for CJ and you want to say, all right, we want some consistency, maybe you bring him back. This is going to sound harsh. I don't know how much they lose if they let Marcus Epps walk and play Reed Blankenship.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I don't know if that's the best outcome either, but I
don't want to get Poyered either.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
you could, I get that. But
Poyer meaning the safety for Buffalo. I mean, not Buffalo,
who left here?
Buffalo, who left here, and became all world of Buffalo.
Yeah. Are you worried about that with Epps?
Yeah, I am.
Are you? Yeah. I don't know. I thought he had a full season this year, and he was solid. He didn't make splash plays. Which there's something to be said for just being a solid player and controlling the middle of the field. But I think you can find that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be rude to Marcus Epps. I thought he played a decent season, but I think you can find that guy.
Yeah.
I'd let Kaiser walk. I'd play Nakobe next year.
Which is a done deal. Yeah.
Let me ask you, Dave, on that for a minute. I don't know. I'm sorry. Hargrave?
Yes, he said Hargrave.
All right.
And he said CJGJ are the two guys.
CJ, yeah.
So here's the question I have. What do we know about Jordan Davis from this year? What's our takeaway?
Great question. Great question.
Yeah, it's tricky. Saw some really good signs in his first 6 games.
Yep.
And his role was growing. It was growing. Then he suffered that high ankle sprain. And for a 340-pound dude to get a high ankle sprain,
that's a big deal. Yep.
It's a big deal. And I don't think, even when he was back after IR, I don't think he was ever the same. So getting a full offseason for him will be a big deal. We saw flashes of it. The problem is he's never going to be a player who jumps out on tape necessarily. He plays.
He's not a sap. Yeah,
he's an occupier. And
and we saw early in the year he was playing that role really, really well.
Right.
And it was telling that late in the season, Linval was a starter, but those reps started to even out. And then toward the end of in the playoffs, Jordan started playing more than him.
That's what he is, though, a Linval type of player, though. That's what he is,
but he's more upside than Linval.
Yeah.
Certainly more upside, more athletic.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy we haven't mentioned is Fletcher Cox, who you probably let Fletcher walk, and that's a tough one after what he's given to this organization. But he's still gonna command a decent salary, and I wouldn't pay him anymore. I question them paying him on a 1-year, $14 million deal, and I thought I thought they got good production out of him this year, but I don't think you can do it again.
Would you give him half of that though? Would you give him 7?
7? Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question here. All things being equal, what level should the first round pick go? Because it's got to go defense. What level of the defense will you rush it? Defensive line, linebacker, safety, corner. What level would you use the first 2 first rounds with?
Well, it's funny because my initial reaction is corner, because I think it'd be nice to just get a plug and play guy.
Yeah,
that's not the way this team thinks. It'd probably be line and defensive line. I think they should replenish, and if it's an interior guy, then that makes sense. For a long time, I was looking at Jalen Carter ooh. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. He's not going to be there for that.
Yeah, at 10, no.
Yeah, he's long gone at 10.
Yeah, but I could see them going on the line.
Okay.
I think that would make sense because that guy's going to play immediately. We know they value that position. Sorry, Barrett, it's not going to be a linebacker.
I'm pissed.
Yeah, and so it's they don't even really draft corners.
Yeah,
really either. So probably on the line, and it's a boring way, but it's really worked for them. So they'll probably go back to it.
See, Dave, I think they need to try to find the next Sauce Gardner. I think Bradbury, by his comments the other day, saying, I don't want to play for cheap. I don't blame him one bit. This is, even at this stage of his career, this 1 year has helped put him in a financial bracket he might not have been coming into this season after being jettisoned by the Jets. But now I don't blame him. When you look at how many pass breakups he had, the way he played the game, he's put himself back into a serious market. So with that said, and like you said, I've been saying for days, you can't pay 2 cornerbacks that Darius Slay kind of money. You just can't. And so you got to get younger in a hurry. And the prime analysis in this is, look at what Kansas City did. Their whole secondary, for the most part, was a bunch of kids that took their lumps, but as the season got better, they got better. Okay? So if you're drafting number 10, you got to try to find that next Sauce Gardner. And I don't know if he's out there because we've seen bust in top 10 picks as well as, great picks, but you got to try to find them. You got to get younger because you got so much money being allocated somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm curious to see what the organization thinks about using a high pick like that on that position. But I think there's good evidence in recent years because you mentioned Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
We've seen Horn. We've seen Surtain. These
True.
young cornerbacks coming in the league and playing really well right away. That wasn't always the case. Cornerback's a really tough position. Mm-hmm. But these guys are coming in the league and playing well early. So I'd be on board for that, but I just know the way this organization operates, and it's always through the line unless there's a good reason not to. The tie's always going to go to the trenches, and they're going to stick with that. It's worked for them this far.
No question. Dave, listen, man, thank you. Get some rest, relax a little bit before you know it, combine and all the fun stuff that accompanies that as well. But we appreciate all your help and you joining us throughout this run, man. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks.
Hey, Dave
Zangaro.
Dave, wherever you're going on vacation, send me some pictures of you wrestling a boa constrictor or an alligator or something like that, please.
The only thing I am doing, so I go back, it's crazy, going back to Phoenix in a few months for the owners meeting. I am staying out an extra week after that.
Are you going to wrangle rattlesnakes?
I'm going to try to avoid that. I'm going to try to avoid the rattlesnakes.
Coyotes? What? Yeah.
No, I saw a coyote on Saturday morning before the Super Bowl. I went on a little hike. I'd pull up to the trailhead, and there's a coyote running across.
Jeez.
That means you don't belong there, bro. Like when you see gorillas, you don't belong there. Bears don't belong. Coyotes, even then, you don't want to be there.
Haven't you seen those shows when wildlife goes bad?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. Look us on my path. It's a bear.
Let me go pet it. Say hi. Yeah, no, thank you.
That's my boy Dave, man. He's
man.
Yeah,
Dave, you got more cojones than I do, bro. I'm not going anywhere where
I ain't doing
it. Beat me up.
I can't do it.
Dave, thanks, buddy. Appreciate
you,
man.
Take care.
All right, you got it. That's Dave Zangaro. All right, it was fun. Good chat with Dave. Well, he'll get you your pictures, Derek. Don't worry, you'll be good.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
We'll come back. We'll look at those draft picks. We'll tell you exactly where the Eagles will be picking, and we'll lay out exactly, what areas need to upgrade. We'll also get into Jalen Hurts and just what an unbelievable season that he had for the Eagles as well. Don't go anywhere. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. We're going to talk about Pro Action Restoration right now because if you have a home, you have a business, you have a property, and you've gone through the inconvenience, the pain, the despair, frankly, of water, fire, smoke, mold damage, you know how trying that can be, right? But Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to help you. I've gone through it on a Saturday. They came right out. There was a flood in my parents' basement. They cleaned it up. They diagnosed the problem. The price was right. The crew was clean and professional. It was an amazing experience. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, could be water, could be fire, could be smoke, could be mold remediation. You name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.